The Nahum Methodist Church is happy to produce a lot of different content for the edification of Christ's church throughout the world. This daily segment that you're listening to right now corresponds with the Daily Bible Reading Challenge, which is hosted by Christ Church in Moscow, Idaho. If you want to download the list of readings that they publish for yourself or learn more about this challenge, this initiative, go to biblereading.christkirk.com. I'm Jeffrey Rickman. I'm the pastor here in Nowata, and I read from the Berean Standard Bible, which you can also find at berean.bible. Consider subscribing to this podcast to be a part of this daily effort to grow in familiarity with and love of God's holy word. Let's dive in for today. Hey y'all, it's time to read the Bible again, and I'm trying to be a helpful husband right now, so the baby's with me. Hopefully it's not going to be presenting too many distracting noises, but this is little Josiah, if you haven't seen him before. We're going to read two prophets today, and the first is Nahum. So this is Nahum chapter 1. Let's attend upon God's word together. This is the burden against Nineveh, the book of the vision of Nahum the Elkoshite. The Lord is a jealous and avenging God. The Lord is avenging the full of wrath. The Lord takes vengeance on his foes and reserves wrath for his enemies. The Lord is slow to anger and great in power. The Lord will by no means leave the guilty unpunished. His path is in the whirlwind and storm, and clouds are the dust beneath his feet. He rebukes the sea and dries it up. He makes all the rivers run dry. Bashan and Carmel wither, and the flower of Lebanon wilts. The mountains quake before him, and the hills melt away. The earth trembles at his presence, the world and all its dwellers. Who can withstand his indignation? Who can endure his burning anger? His wrath is poured out like fire. Even rocks are shattered before him. The Lord is good, a stronghold in the day of distress. He cares for those who trust in him. But with an overwhelming flood, he will make an end of Nineveh and pursue his enemies into darkness. Whatever you plot against the Lord, he will bring to an end. Affliction will not rise up a second time, for they will be entangled as with thorns and consumed like the drink of a drunkard, like the stubble that is fully dry. From you, O Nineveh, comes forth a plotter of evil against the Lord, a counselor of wickedness. This is what the Lord says. Though they are allied and numerous, yet they will be cut down and pass away. Though I have afflicted you, O Judah, I will afflict you no longer. For I will now break their yoke from your neck and tear away your shackles. The Lord has issued a command concerning you, O Nineveh. There will be no descendants to carry on your name. I will cut off the carved image and cast idol from the house of your gods. I will prepare your grave, for you are contemptible. Look to the mountains, the feet of one who brings good news, who proclaims peace. Celebrate your feasts, O Judah. Fulfill your vows, for the wicked will never again march through you. They will be utterly cut off. Nahum chapter 2. One who scatters advances against you, O Nineveh. Guard the fortress, watch the road, brace yourselves, summon all your strength. For the Lord will restore the splendor of Jacob like the splendor of Israel. Though destroyers have laid them waste and ruined the branches of their vine. The shields of his mighty men are red. The valiant warriors are dressed in scarlet. The fittings of the chariots flash like fire on the day they are prepared. and the spears of Cyprus have been brandished. The chariots dash through the streets. They rush around the plazas, appearing like torches, darting about like lightning. He summons his nobles. They stumble as they advance. They race to its wall. The protective shield is set in place. The river gates are thrown open, and the palace collapses. It is decreed that the city be exiled and carried away. Her maidservants moan like doves and beat upon their breasts. Nineveh has been like a pool of water throughout her days, but now it is draining away. Stop, stop, they cry, but no one turns back. Plunder the silver, plunder the gold. There is no end to the treasure, an abundance of every precious thing. She is emptied. Yes, she is desolate and laid waste. Hearts melt, knees knock, bodies tremble, and every face grows pale. Where is the lion's lair? Where the feeding ground of the young lions? Where the lion and lioness prowled with their cubs, with nothing to frighten them away. The lion mauled enough for its cubs and strangled prey for the lioness. It filled its dens with the kill and its lairs with mauled prey. Behold, I am against you, declares the Lord of hosts. I will send your chariots up in smoke, and the sword will devour your young lions. I will cut off your prey from the earth, and the voices of your messengers will no longer be heard. Nahum chapter 3. Woe to the city of blood, full of lies, full of plunder, never without prey. The crack of the whip, the rumble of the wheel, galloping horse and bounding chariot. Charging horsemen, flashing sword, shining spear, heaps of slain, mounds of corpses, dead bodies without end. They stumble over their dead. Because of the many harlotries of the harlot, the seductive mistress of sorcery, who betrays nations by her prostitution and clans by her witchcraft. Behold, I am against you, declares the Lord of hosts. I will lift your skirts over your face. I will show your nakedness to the nations, and your shame to the kingdoms. I will pelt you with filth and treat you with contempt. I will make a spectacle of you. Then all who see you will recoil from you and say, Nineveh is devastated. Who will grieve for her? Where can I find comforters for you? Are you better than Thebes, stationed by the Nile with water around her, whose rampart was the sea, whose wall was the water? Cush and Egypt were her boundless strength. Put and Libya were her allies. Yet she became an exile. She went into captivity. Her infants were dashed to pieces at the head of every street. They cast lots for her dignitaries, and all her nobles were bound in chains. You too will become drunk. You will go into hiding and seek refuge from the enemy. All your fortresses are fig trees with the first ripe figs. When shaken, they fall into the mouth of the eater. Look at your troops. They're like your women. The gates of your land are wide open to your enemies. Fire consumes their bars. Draw your water for the siege. Strengthen your fortresses. Work the clay and tread the mortar. Repair the brick kiln. There the fire will devour you. The sword will cut you down and consume you like a young locust. Make yourself many like the young locust. Make yourself many like the swarming locust. You have multiplied your merchants more than the stars of the sky. The young locust strips the land and flies away. Your guards are like the swarming locust, and your scribes like the clouds of locusts that settle on the walls on a cold day. When the sun rises, they fly away, and no one knows where. O king of Assyria, your shepherds slumber. Your officers sleep. Your people are scattered on the mountains with no one to gather them. There is no healing for your injury. Your wound is severe. All who hear the news of you applaud your downfall. For who has not experienced your constant cruelty? That's Nahum. That was all of Nahum. Now we're on Habakkuk. 3 more chapters. This is the first one. This is the burden that Habakkuk the prophet received in a vision. How long, O Lord, must I call for help, but you do not hear? Or cry out to you, violence, but you do not save? Why do you make me see iniquity? Why do you tolerate wrongdoing? Destruction and violence are before me. Strife is ongoing and conflict abounds. Therefore the law is paralyzed and justice never goes forth. For the wicked hem in the righteous. I read that wrong. For the wicked hem in the righteous, so that justice is perverted. Look at the nations and observe. Be utterly astounded. For I am doing a work in your days that you would never believe even if someone told you. For behold, I am raising up the Chaldeans, that ruthless and impetuous nation, which marches through the breadth of the earth to seize dwellings not their own. They are dreaded and feared. From themselves they derive justice and sovereignty. Their horses are swifter than leopards, fiercer than wolves of the night. Their horsemen charge ahead, and their cavalry comes from afar. They fly like a vulture, swooping down to devour. All of them come bent on violence. Their hordes advance like the east wind. They gather prisoners like sand. They scoff at kings and make rulers an object of scorn. They laugh at every fortress and build up siege ramps to seize it. Then they sweep by like the wind and pass on through. They are guilty. Their own strength is their God. Are you not from everlasting, O Lord, my God, my Holy One? We will not die. O Lord, you have appointed them to execute judgment. O Rock, you have established them for correction. Your eyes are too pure to look upon evil, and you cannot tolerate wrongdoing. So why do you tolerate the faithless? Why are you silent while the wicked swallow up those more righteous than themselves? You have made men like the fish of the sea, like creeping things that have no ruler. The foe pulls all of them up with a hook. He catches them in his dragnet and gathers them in his fishing net, so he rejoices gladly. Therefore he sacrifices to his dragnet and burns incense to his fishing net. For by these things his portion is sumptuous and his food is rich. Will he therefore empty his net and continue to slay nations without mercy? Habakkuk chapter 2. I will stand at my guard post and station myself on the ramparts. I will watch to see what he will say to me and how I should answer when corrected. Then the Lord answered me, write down this vision and clearly inscribe it on tablets so that a herald may run with it. For the vision awaits an appointed time. It testifies of the end and does not lie. Though it lingers, wait for it, since it will surely come and will not delay. Look at the proud one. His soul is not upright, but the righteous will live by faith. And wealth indeed betrays him. He is an arrogant man, never at rest. He enlarges his appetite like Sheol, and like death he is never satisfied. He gathers all the nations to himself and collects all the peoples as his own. Will not all of these take up a taunt against him, speaking with mockery and derision? Woe to him who amasses what is not his and makes himself rich with many loans. How long will this go on? Will not your creditors suddenly arise and those who disturb you awaken? Then you will become their prey. Because you have plundered many nations, the remnant of the people will plunder you. Because of your bloodshed against man and your violence against the land, the city, and all their dwellers. Woe to him who builds his house by unjust gain, to place his nest on high and escape the hand of disaster. You have plotted shame for your house by cutting off many peoples and forfeiting your life. For the stones will cry out from the wall, and the rafters will echo it from the woodwork. Woe to him who builds a city with bloodshed and establishes a town by iniquity. Is it not indeed from the Lord of hosts that the labor of the people only feeds the fire, and the nations weary themselves in vain? For the earth will be filled with the knowledge of the glory of the Lord as the waters cover the sea. Woe to him who gives drink to his neighbors, pouring it from the wineskin until they are drunk, in order to gaze at their nakedness. You will be filled with shame instead of glory. You too must drink and expose your uncircumcision. The cup in the Lord's right hand will come around to you, and utter disgrace will cover your glory. For your violence against Lebanon will overwhelm you, and the destruction of animals will terrify you. Because of your bloodshed against men and your violence against the land, the city, and all the dwellers, what use is an idol that a craftsman should carve it, or an image, a teacher of lies? For its maker trusts in his own creation. He makes idols that cannot speak. Woe to him who says to wood, awake, or to silent stone, arise. Can it give guidance? Behold, it is overlaid with gold and silver, yet there is no breath in it at all. But the Lord is in his holy temple. Let all the earth be silent before him. Habakkuk chapter 3. This is a prayer of Habakkuk the prophet according to Shigioneth. O Lord, I have heard the report of you. I stand in awe, O Lord, of your deeds. Revive them in these years. Make them known in these years. In your wrath, remember mercy. God came from Teman, and the Holy One from Mount Paran, Selah. His glory covered the heavens, and his praise filled the earth. His radiance was like the sunlight. Rays flashed from his hand where his power is hidden. Plague went before him, and fever followed in his steps. He stood and measured the earth. He looked and startled the nations. The ancient mountains crumbled. The perpetual hills collapsed. His ways are everlasting. I saw the tents of Cushan in distress. The curtains of Midian were trembling. Were you angry at the rivers, O Lord? Was your wrath against the streams? Did you rage against the sea when you rode on your horses, on your chariots of salvation? You brandished your bow. You called for many arrows. Selah. You split the earth with rivers. The mountains saw you and quaked. Torrents of water swept by. The deep roared with its voice and lifted its hands on high. Sun and moon stood still in their places at the flash of your flying arrows, at the brightness of your shining spear. You marched across the earth with fury. You threshed the nations in wrath. You went forth for the salvation of your people, to save your anointed. You crushed the head of the house of the wicked and stripped him from head to toe. Selah. With his own spear you pierced his head. With his warriors stormed out to scatter us, gloating as though ready to secretly devour the weak. You trampled the sea with your horses, churning the great waters. I heard and trembled within. My lips quivered at the sound. Decay entered my bones. I trembled where I stood. Yet I must wait patiently for the day of distress to come upon the people who invade us. Though the fig tree does not bud and no fruit is on the vines, Though the olive crop fails and the fields produce no food, though the sheep are cut off from the fold and no cattle are in the stalls, yet I will exult in the Lord. I will rejoice in the God of my salvation. God, the Lord, is my strength. He makes my feet like those of a deer. He makes me walk upon the heights. For the choir master with stringed instruments. That's how that book, that prophecy ends. To the choir with stringed instruments. I don't understand that. I haven't read a commentary on that and why that line was retained. But in Nahum, you had a condemnation of the Assyrian capital of Nineveh. Of course, the Assyrians were the ones who overthrew the northern kingdom of Israel. And so God is promising to return evil to them, which of course he did. And then the Chaldeans also invaded with the Babylonians and the Assyrians. I want to say they had a hand in both the northern and southern kingdom being eradicated. So both of these prophets foretold God's punishment upon nations that came against his holy people. And of course, the Chaldeans no longer exist today, not in any real form, and same with the Assyrians. But the Jews are around, the Judeans. And so God has faithfully stood by his people, even when they haven't been faithful to him. Thanks be to God. Sorry for the distraction of my boy at the beginning, but thanks for hanging through with it. And we've reached the end of our time. So God bless you. Have a good day and go to worship tomorrow. It'll be the Lord's Day. I'll see you Monday.